This conference will now be recorded.
In yesterday's session, we were discussing about what is CMD, what is entry point, what is the difference between CMD and entry point, and we were discussing all those things. So before I proceed further, this run CMD and entry point instructions, this run CMD and entry point instructions can be defined in two forms. These instructions can be defined in two forms. One is shell form, another one is executable form. Another one is executable form. So sometimes in the interview also they'll ask what is shell form and executable form in Docker. So this run CMD entry point can be defined in two forms. One is shell form, another one is executable form. If it is a shell form, it will be something like this. It will be something like this. Your instruction, your command directly, command with arguments like argument 1, argument 2, like this. Run. Same can be done with CMD also, entry point also. It is something like this. Example, run. Just any command or this one. So this is in which form? This is in which form? If you see something like this is in shell form. Now same CMD also can be defined like this. sh catalina.sh cmd java -jar the tab.jar, like this. CMD and entry point also something like this you can define whatever you want to do. So directly like this. This is shell form. This is shell form if I have defined like this. When it comes to executable form, it is something like this. When it comes to executable form, it is something like this. Your executable, your executable. That executable is nothing but your command. That executable is nothing but command, comma, argument 1, comma, argument 2. Something like this. Something like this. That executable is nothing but a command. That command, what command you want to run, what executable you want to execute. So this one. So same for this one also, like this. CMD and entry point. Just to give an example, same commands, same this commands, I can define in executable also. Same I can define in executable also, something like this. So when it comes to executable form, it is something like this. This is your executable. This is one argument, comma, another argument, like this. N number of arguments, not only two arguments. Can I keep defining arguments like this? Arg3. Yes, don't consider only two arguments. Don't consider only two arguments like that. So that can be n number of arguments. Now, when it comes to this, this is something like this. Your executable, that is command, argument 1, comma, argument 2, comma, argument 3. Something like this. Now same applies for this one also. Same applies for this one also. If required, I can define same commands in a executable form also like this. Executable form also like this. That can be any command in executable form, something like this. So same thing, but defining is different. Defining the command is in a different format. Now, what is the difference between this executable form and shell form now? It looks similar, right? It looks similar. I am executing mkdir this one, I am executing this one here. Same thing is also getting happening here also in the executable form. How different it is in the background, how different it is going to execute that command is different. If it is a shell form, how it works, right? In shell form, your command will be executed as below. As below in background, in the container, right? Executed as below. I mean to say not in the container, like whether it is while building the image or while creating a container, that doesn't matter. It will be executed as below internally. So something like this. Your shell, your shell, that shell can be, that shell can be, that can be bash, that can be your bash shell or sh shell, based on whatever you have in the image. Your shell -c, your command with arguments like this. So example, how it will work internally. If you have a bash shell, if you have a bash shell, it will be like /bin/bash -c. Suppose this is the command, it will execute like this internally. So this will be executed internally like this. Just to give an example of CMD or entry point also, if this is the CMD, how it will internally execute? Internally, it will execute something like this. If it is entry point also, like let's consider this is your entry point, how it will work internally? Something like this. Something like this. So when it is shell form, the command will be internally executed like this. But when it comes to executable form, so this command, let's say, this command will be how it will be executed internally. It is like this only. Let me show you. Now your executable, bin/executable or command, whatever you have, that command, then your arguments, in executable form, it will be like this. In executable form, it will be like this, which means suppose I have this command. Internally, how it will be executed? Internally, how it will be executed? /bin/ this one, mkdir -p, like this. This will be executed something like this. If this is the command, right? How it will be executed? The CMD in the background, /bin/java/jar app.jar, something like this. Entry point also same. If this is the entry point, it will be executed like this in the executable form. If this is the command, internally it will be something like this. Something like this. So This is how it is going to work. But if you observe, at the end of the day, am I getting same what is expected out of that command is the same is getting executed at the end of the day, whether it is a shell form, whether it's a executable, same. But the way it is getting executed is different. So what is the difference? It is directly executing with that executable, but it is executing like this in a shell form. So what is the difference? If it is a shell form, is your command is going to be running as a main process under that container or under that? Suppose I have given cmd like this. I have given cmd like this. Let's consider, is this Java process will be main process under the container if you use shell form, or is it running under a child process of bash? Is it running under child process of bash in the shell form? If I define like this, is this process is going to be a main process? If I define like this, is Java is going to be running as a root process or main process? No. So this is going to be running as a bash under bash. So bash is the main process. -c stands for command. -c stands for command, not child. So bash is main process. Under the bash, is this is going to be running as a child process. If I am using shell form, is Java will be main process or child process? If I do like this in the shell form, if I have defined, is this is actually a root process or child process under bash or shell? It's a child process. It's not a root process. So what is the root process? If it is a shell form, is your shell that can be bash or sh is the root process. But when I define same command in a executable form like this, when I define same command in a executable form like this, internally it is going to execute like this. So here, what is the main process? Same command I am defining in executable form. What is the root process or main process? Java. Java is the main process. If it is a executable form like this. Not only Java, suppose I have CMD like this. I have CMD like this. Let's say I have CMD like this. I'm just giving an example. I have CMD like this, node app.js. So how internally it will be executed? Is it going to do something like this internally? If it is executable form, yes. So in this case, your node process will be the root process or main process? Yes. Now, what does it matters? Whether it is running as a root process in the container or child process in the container, what does it matter? Let me tell you. When we are executing docker stop command, your container is getting stopped or your container is getting killed. Which process will be notified? The root process. The root process will be notified. Suppose if I have defined my command in shell form like this. If I define my command in a shell form like this. Now, when the container is getting stopped or killed, does Java process will be notified that it is about to be killed or stopped, or the bash process? Since bash is root, which process will be notified? The bash. That is root process. So if the container is getting killed or container is getting stopped, does Java process knows that it is about to be stopped or about to be killed? No, because it is running as a child. So does Java process will be stopped smoothly or gracefully, which means does Java process will release whatever resources it has acquired, like database connection pools, connection pools, or any other resources it is acquired. Is it going to release smoothly? In this case, if it is a shell form, if it is a shell form, since Java process is not about to be know that it is about to be stopped, it doesn't know it is about to be stopped or killed, because it is running as a child process, not as a main process. Does Java will release like whatever pool of database connections it has acquired or any other resources smoothly? No, because this is not the main process, right? This is not the main process. Bash is the main process. So does Java will have grace period, or like does it is about to be know that that process is to be stopped? No. So it is not going to release whatever resources like database connection it is holding. If your application is connecting to the database, does your application process will hold some connections with the database? If your application is trying to connect to the database for reading and writing the data, there is a concept of connection pool. If you are from a development background, you can understand. Do you guys aware about database pool, connection pools? Anyone from development background? When your application is started, when your application process is started, it is going to hold some connections of database. Now those type of connections, will it be released if this is how you are started your Java process in the container? No, because it is doesn't know that Java doesn't know that it is about to be stopped or killed. It is not going to release a pool of connections whatever it has acquired. But when it comes to executable form, I have defined like this. Then is this is running as a main process now? So when the container is getting killed automatically for some issue, when the container is getting stopped intentionally, does that process knows that it is about to be stopped or killed? Is it going to gracefully release all the resources whatever it has acquired since it is going to be stopped? Yes. So that way it will release the resources smoothly. So we don't know this, earlier when I started Docker around 6 years back. When I started using Docker around 6 years back, I started using Docker approximately from 2016, 15 or 16. We started using initially. Initially, I was using Docker and we are deploying using Docker Swarm. So, what is Docker Swarm? What is Kubernetes? We will discuss later. So, we were using Docker initially. That time, we would never know all these concepts. I had one Java application. I have defined something like this in my Docker file. So containers are getting killed, but the database connections are not getting released. It is still holding the connections. So we don't know what is happening. So when we try to understand more about this, we came to know that there are two forms which we can define this run and CMD and entry point. One is shell form, another one is executable form. So we define in a shell form like this. And application, that process is getting stopped, but it is not releasing the database connections whatever it has acquired. It is not releasing that one. So then we came to know that this is how internally it is going to work if I define like this. So we had this issue. Sometimes in the interview also they will ask one, can you tell me one issue which you faced in Jenkins or Docker or your application, anything. So try to remember this one, also one of the issue which you can explain. So we don't know this, shell form, executable form. We defined my application process to be started as like this using CMD. We have defined like this. In which form the Java process has started? In a shell form, as a child process, not as a root process. So when the container is getting stopped, the process is getting stopped, it is not releasing. This Java is not releasing the pool of connections, whatever it has acquired. We encountered this problem. So what we have done later, we changed that from shell form to executable form. So the issue got resolved. How that issue got resolved? Because in the executable form, is this actual command will be running as a main process or root process? Yes. So when we are stopping the container, is that process is about to be know that it is about to be stopped or killed? It is releasing all the pool of resources, whatever it has acquired. So In the interview, if they ask, can you explain one issue which you faced in your application? You can say, I'm using Docker. I was doing like this. This was the issue. This was the solution. Or if they ask you, can you explain one issue you faced in Docker? Can you explain whatever I have explained just now? Issue can be anything, guys. You might have faced lot of issues also already. You can explain any issue, what you think, whatever you faced. Now, which one is recommended between these two forms now? I have a shell form, I have executable form. Which one is recommended in which form we need to define? Especially CMD and entry point, especially these two. CMD and entry point, especially these two, in which form we need to define? CMD and entry point is recommended to define in executable form. But for this does it matter whether you define in executable form or shell form? No, it doesn't matter, because when this run will be executed? While creating an image, you are using that just to install some software and configuration. But does this CMD and entry point will start your process? Whatever process you want to start, that can be Java process, Node.js process, Python process, or database process in your container. Yes. So that container process has to be started as a root process, not as a child process. So especially the CMD and entry point has to be defined in which form? Executable. If you see any Docker file, most of the Docker file or any Docker file you use, whether it's a base image Docker file, whether it is your own image Docker file, if you see, in which form you see that CMDs are entry points? If you see any base image Docker file, I am showing Tomcat base image Docker file. Any base image Docker file, if you see, in which form they have defined CMD? Executable form. But when it comes to run, in which form they have defined? Whether this run command, shell form. So are you guys clear? What is this executable form? What is this shell form? How it works internally? What is recommended especially for CMD and entry point? Are you guys clear? This is how it works. Now let's continue with other instructions. So far we discussed what? From maintainer, copy, add CMD, run CMD, and entry point. So we discussed these things. Now similarly like this, we have some other instructions also. One is env, arg, label, workdir, user, expose, volume. Like this we have instructions. What is this env? We already discussed all these things. What is this env? env stands for env stands for env stands for what? Env stands for environment. Can I set environment variables to the image? whatever environment variables I have defined in the image, will I have those environment variables available in the container also? Wherever I create a container, will I have those environment variables available or accessible in the container, whatever environment variables I have set for the image? So this is like this: key, your environment variable key, and a value. Your environment variable key and a value. Using this env, we can set environment variables. We can set environment variable. That can be any environment variable. Whatever environment variables we have set in Docker file using env, these environment variables can be referred, or used within Docker file instruction also, within Docker file instructions also, or within your container, any code within your container, any process or any code, any process or code can access. Which means whatever environment variables I am setting in the Docker file using env, can I refer these environment variables within Docker file also while creating an image, or within the container, any process? That can be your Java process or .NET process or Node.js process, or in shell script also. You are running some shell script. Can you able to refer those environment variables in your shell script or Java code or Node.js code, whatever it is? Yes. We can set environment variables like this. Now, let me show you some images. Let me connect to one of my server where I have some images, or maybe containers also. Let me connect to this server, build server. Now, if you see, I have some images. Let's consider I don't have any image. Okay. Maybe let me connect to my deployment server. Let me connect to my deployment server where I have deployed my image as a container. Let me connect to that. Now let's consider this. I have created image. Right? This image is created by me, and this image is pushed to the registry, and I pull that image and created a container. If I inspect that image, will I able to see what environment variables has been set for that image? One second. Docker inspect. That tag. What is the tag? Okay. Any image. Let me use this one. What is this, guys? Docker inspect. Okay. Now, if you see, can I see these environment variables? Whatever has been set. But if you understand, did I set all these variables in our Docker file? Whatever I used to create that image, I use this Docker file. This is the application. So using this Docker file, I created that image. But do you see any env in this Docker file? No. But how come those environment variables are defined? Where it has been defined? Where it has been set? From the base image it is coming. From the base image it is coming. Now, if you see the base image, the Tomcat base image, the Tomcat base image, if you see, if you see any version of the Tomcat base image, you can understand. Any version, that is fine. Now need to open. Do you see env Catalina home? This is the environment variable key and a value. Can I see that environment variable Catalina home, that env Catalina home, this environment variable value here? And if you observe here, whatever environment variables I have defined in this Docker file, am I able to refer these environment variables within the Docker file instructions also? If you see run mkdir this $Catalina home. So I have defined environment variable here. Am I able to refer that variable within the Docker file instruction also like this? Yes. Now like this, a lot of other environment variables, CNV major version, Tomcat major version, Tomcat minor version like this. Am I able to see all those things, whatever has been set in that respective Docker file, what URL is used to download the Tomcat, all these things, especially this path. Do you see path environment variable also? But where this path environment variable has been set, let me see if I have that here. So do you see already there is a path variable coming from this base image also. From this base image, path environment variable is coming. Are they again appending this Catalina home bin to the existing path environment variable? This you have already done in the servers also. Now, since your Catalina bin is path of your Tomcat bin directory is path of, part of your path environment variable, can I execute this Catalina.sh directly from any location since it is part of that path variable? Your Tomcat bin directory is part of path variable. Can we execute this command from any directory within that container? Do I need to go to that bin directory and execute this one? Not required. I no need to go to the bin directory. Do I need to execute? Not required. I can execute from anywhere because is that Tomcat bin directory is part of your path variable? Yes. So using this env, can I set environment variables? That can be path variable, that can be any other variables like Java home, Catalina home, all those things. Yes. So we are using this base image. So from this base image also, are we getting some variables, environment variables? Let me show you. The Tomcat is using another base image. So something like this it is using. Now within that, if I have a Docker file reference for this base image also, I can open. Now let me open anything, fine, just to understand the concept. If you see, do they have some environment variables like this? Java version, path, Java home, env, Java home, path. They are adding Java bin to the path like this. So can I add any environment variable using this env in Docker file? Can I set the environment for my application or my container using this env in my Docker file? Whatever has been defined in environment variables, wherever I create a container, suppose I created a container out of that image, if will I able to access those environment variables within this container in Java code or .NET code or shell script, whatever it is, within the container also, does any other application, any other process can refer those environment variables? Yes, let me show that. Let me go inside this container. Let me go inside this container. Let me go inside this container. Now I am just typing env. I hope you know what is this env command. Is it showing the environment variables or environment of that? I think you know what is this env. I no need to explain. So if you see, can I see those environments? Now how come where this has been set? This Catalina home, where this Tomcat version is set, Java version is set, where this path is set, all these things is defined using env in your Docker file. Now any code, suppose I have some shell script, any shell script, can I refer these environment variables in my code also? If it is a shell script or Java code, can I refer any environment variables? Yes. If it is a shell script, how do you refer environment variable, guys? How do you refer, how do you access environment variable? If it is a shell script, will you use this symbol and that environment variable? Maybe this one if you want to use, or this one if you want to use, something else you want to use. Can you use something like this in your script, shell script if it is? Suppose if it is a Java code, if it is a Java code, within my Java code also, if I want to access some environment variables, can I use some method, some class? I think system dot get env something is there in the Java. If you want to read in the Java, if you want to read, you can use system dot get env, that environment variable name. If it is a Python code or Node.js code also, is there a way I can refer or read environment variables? Yes. I think in Python code, sorry, not in Python. I think in Node.js code, let's say I have some Node.js code here. So can I refer something like this in the Node.js code? If I want to refer in the code something like this, if you see process.env, this environment variable name. If it is a Node.js code, as a developer also, can we refer environment variables in Node.js code or Java code or Python code or any code? Now, suppose I want to set this port in my Docker file of this application. I don't want to run this on 9981. Can I use this variable in my Docker file, like saying that in my Docker file saying that port 3000 something like this, env port 3000 something like this, env port 3000 like this. Now I have set environment variable called port here. If that is being used in the application also like this, within that application it is being used something like this. This is way of reading environment variables in Node.js, process.env.port. Now will I get that 3000 value here? Because of this line, will I have that 3000 value here if I set a Docker file like this, env port 3000? Now is your container process, is your Node.js process is going to start on this port instead of 9981? If this is there, it will use that one. If this port is empty, what is the default value it is taking? We are setting the port for that Node.js process. This is Node.js code. This is Node.js code. If this is available, then it will use that one. If that is not available, on which port it is going to take? 9981. So last time in my Docker file, I have not set something like this. In my Docker file, I have not set something like this. So which means on which port it is going to run, because this is empty, and which port this is taking? 9981. So if required, can I set the environment variables? Can I refer those environment variables within the Docker file instruction or within your container, any code, any process? Can I able to access those environment variables using env whatever has been set? Yes. So is everyone clear? What is the use of this env? Can I set the environment variables to my image? So can I access those environment variables within the Docker file instructions or within container in any code, any process? Yes. Whatever we can set here. But even though I have not set here, is it possible for me to pass environment variables at runtime? Which means while creating a container also, even though I don't define env here, is it possible for me to pass to my container while creating a container? The way you are creating a container like this, is it possible for me to pass environment variables at runtime also to my container if required? Yes. What option you will use here? -hyphen environment, or in the short form -e, key equals to value. Something like this you can pass. Now, even though I have not set the environment variables in the image in the Docker file, can these environment variables can be accessible within the container, whatever I am passing at runtime also? Yes. But these environment variables I am passing at runtime, but I have not defined here. Will I able to use that in any instruction? Suppose I am using something like this. I am doing something like this. Just to give an example. But if this is not defined in the Docker file, will this work? Will this work? No. You can define, this can be available in the image also while creating, or in the container also. If required, can I pass environment variables directly to the container also while creating a container using docker run or create? Can I use this option to pass environment variables to the containers also? Yes. So we can set environment variables using env. Using env. Is everyone clear what is env? What is the scope of this environment variable? Will I able to access these environment variables within the Docker file instruction and also within the container also wherever I have created? Yes. Now, the way we have a env, there is a one more instruction called arg. What is arg? What is this arg? So arg, the name itself it is saying arg. Arg in the sense argument. Argument. So we can define arguments in a Docker file. Arguments are like a variables, kind of a variables in Docker file, kind of a variables in a Docker file. We can define arguments in a Docker file using arg. We can access args or arguments within Docker file while building image, right? We can refer these arguments within Docker file while building image. But whatever arguments I have defined in the Docker file, will I able to access those arguments once the image is created? Will I able to access those arguments once the image is created in my container? Will I able to access these arguments? Whatever I have created using arg? No. So arguments also again key value pairs, something like this. Argument is like a key and a value, kind of a variable. But these arguments, will I able to access in my container whatever arguments I have defined in my Docker file? No. But will I able to refer these arguments within my Docker file instructions? Within my Docker file instructions, will I able to refer? Yes. But while building the image only, this will work. What is the use of these arguments? What is the use of these arguments? Instead of hard coding something in my Docker file, Will I able to parameterize my Docker build also using arguments? Using arguments, can I pass something while building the image to my Docker file? Some values can I pass to my Docker file while building the image? Can I able to parameterize my Docker build using this arguments concept? Yes. Sometimes in the interview also they'll ask, will you able to parameterize your Docker build? Will you able to parameterize your Docker build? Which means, what is the meaning of parameterization? Instead of hard coding something in your Docker file, can you pass that value to the Docker file while building the image, while executing Docker build command? Yes. Just to give an example, let me show you. Let me show you that argument concept here. Let me go to this Docker file labs. Let me go to this Docker file labs folder. Now let me take some Docker file. Let me take some Docker file. Now suppose env. Suppose env, I have set something like this. Env, I have set something like this just to some environment variable. That can be anything. Just to give an example, I am doing like this: project home /opt/app. If required, can I refer this environment variable in Docker file like this also? Yes. And once I create a container also out of this image, will I able to see this environment variable? Will I able to access this environment variable wherever I create a container in any server? Yes. Now, when it comes to parameterization, suppose I have something like this. I have something like this. I don't want to always build image using this base image. I don't want to always build the image using this tag. Or maybe I don't want to hard code something. I don't want to hard code something in my Docker file. Suppose I am copying some file from some folder. I am copying some file. But I don't want to hard code this. I want to parameterize this one. I want to parameterize this one. Suppose I have something like this. I don't want to always so I have some file. Now I don't want always pass this file. I don't want to always copy. The file name might be different. And I don't want to hard code like this. Can I use arguments concept here instead of defining this value like this? Can I pass the value for the argument using build also at runtime also? Or I don't want to use this tag. So instead of doing like this, can I refer argument something like this? In the Docker also, you can use this dollar symbol, something like this: base image tag, base image tag, base image tag, base image tag like this. Now, instead of hard coding like this, I can refer as an argument. Now, can I define arg here? As I already told, what is the first argument except from which we can define arg? So here, can I define something like this: base image tag? Maybe for now, I will say latest. So if I don't pass anything while building the image, what will be the default value of this argument? If I don't pass anything while building the image, this one. Now here, I don't want to hard code this app.text. I don't want to hard code this app.text. Can I refer something, some variable like this? Something like this: file name. Can I pass this file name as an argument? Guys, don't do like this. It won't work. So if you define this file name here, this won't work. This cannot be referred here. So whatever you are referring here, only that can be defined here. But rest of the other arguments, can I define below that from instruction? Rest of the other arguments, can I define below from instruction? This file name, something like this. The default one. The default one. The default name. Guys, again, now is this correct? Suppose, is this correct? Is this correct? I am not defining here. Let's consider. Is this correct? Is this correct? No, this is not correct. So this is where I am defining. This is where I am defining. Or not only here, can I define before I am referring here? Not only here, can I define before I am referring here? Yes. So this is like a variable. But don't define in the top. In this top argument, whatever you are using in this one, in the from, if you want to do something, if you in the from instruction you want to refer some argument, that is the only one which you need to define here. Any other arguments which are you are defining, you are referring other than from, those from arguments has to be defined under this from. Any other arguments which you are referring, except in the from, you are referring any arguments where I have to define those arguments, that has to be under the from. But if I want to refer something in the from instruction itself, only that one you have to define in the above. Now, can I do like this? Here? Yes. Now, if I don't pass also, while building image, is it going to use these default values, whatever I have defined as an arg? Now let me show you. Docker build -t that image one dot. Am I passing any arguments to the build arguments? No. So is it using the default argument value and creating an image? Now my Docker file creation will fail. Why my Docker file creation will fail? Because I am trying to copy some file. Do I have that file in this build context? Now, wherever I have that copy instruction, it will fail. Now, do you see this copy file not found, saying file not found in the build context. So this app.txt file is not found. So do I have that app.txt file in the build context, which I am trying to copy using copy? No. So let me create some dummy file, app.txt test, just a dummy file. Now I have this app.txt file, and that is my argument default name. That is my argument default name. I am referring in the copy instruction. So I am not passing anything. I am not passing anything. Is it using that default name and copied the image into the image? Is my image creation is successful? Yes. Now I don't want to copy that file now. I want to copy different file. Now I have a file called xyz.txt. Just to give an example, xyz.txt. I want to copy this file. Instead of that file, I want to copy this file. I don't want to change my Docker file. I don't want to change anything in my Docker file. Is it possible for me to parameterize? Is it possible for me to parameterize my Docker build using this arguments concept now? Yes. So I don't want to use this latest image. I don't want to use this latest image. I don't want to use this tag, base tag. Is it possible for me to pass this base image tag also different? And can I pass this file name also different to my Docker file to build the image? Yes. Now how to do that? Docker build, one option here, build arg. So my build argument name. Suppose I want to use a different tag instead of latest tag. I want to use other tag as a base image. Let's say in the hub.docker.com, Ubuntu, Ubuntu. Maybe now I want to use this one, 20.0.4 tag. This tag instead of latest colon latest, I want to use this tag. Maybe this one, 21.0. Now can I pass something like this? Now instead of this value being used here, now does this value will be used here? Here? Yes. Now I want to copy XYZ file. This one. Can I use one more argument like this? Build arg, that file name argument. That file name equals to, can I pass like this? Something like this. My build context. So do I have this file in the build context? That is again important. Do I have that file in the build context? Yes. So you don't need to use comma. There is no comma here. Only what? Here to pass multiple arguments. Space separated. Just a space separated. Now, if I'm doing like this, now is it pulling the base image again? If you see why it is pulling the base image, because I am using this base image now, this base tag. So using this arguments concept, will I able to parameterize my Docker build, I mean to say image creation using this arguments concept? It is very important feature also, because I don't want to modify anything. I don't want to modify anything in my Docker file. I should be able to do the parameterization. Not only Docker, is this expected in anything, whether you are writing a shell script, whether you are writing a Jenkins pipeline, whether you are writing any code also, is any code is expected to be reused. Whatever code you are writing, that is expected to be reusable. So can I use this arguments concept without modifying file? Will I able to pass values to my Docker build and do the parameterization? Yes. Now, I created an image. If I inspect that image, if I inspect this image, Docker inspect that image. Now, if you see, am I able to see whatever environment variable I have set env in my Docker file? In my Docker file, did I set that environment variable? Project home. Can I see that one? Yes. But once this image is created, will I able to refer or access these arguments, these build arguments or arguments? What is the scope of this argument? The scope of this argument is only within the Docker file instructions you can refer, that will be available or accessible only while creating an image. Once that image is created, will I able to refer these arguments in the container? Does these arguments can be accessible or available in the container? No. Sometimes in the interview they are asking this question also. What is difference between env and arg? What is difference between env and arg? Guys, will I able to pass environment variables while building the image? Can I use something like this while building the image? No. While building the image, I cannot pass environment variables like this. It will not allow. This option is not correct for building the image. So we cannot pass environment variables to the Docker build, but that can be defined in Docker file. Okay. So now using this build arguments, am I able to parameterize this build? Yes. Now, if I don't pass anything, is it going to use default argument values, whatever has been defined within the Docker file? Default one, whatever has been defined in the Docker file. Now, suppose here I have not defined, here I have not defined, here I have not defined. I'm just referring. I'm just referring. Let me execute Docker build. Is it throwing some kind of a error? Invalid reference format, because I am referring this one. Now, let me do something like this. Let me do something like this. I have not defined, but am I able, while passing at runtime also, is it taking that one without defining in the Docker file? Is it taking that one? Is it taking that one if I am passing? No. So, which means, do I need to define this? Do I need to define this in my Docker file? That can be empty. That can be empty also fine. What does it mean empty? Can I just define something like this? Arg without any value. Without any value. Is it allowed like this? I just defined without any value. Now this time is it taking that this one while I'm passing? Yes. But if I don't pass anything, if I don't pass anything, since it is image tag, it is empty. If it is empty, it is taking empty space. So again, am I getting invalid reference format? Because I have an argument, but no value is used. No value is used. So if required, you can define default value. If you don't define default value, is it mandatory to pass argument? If you don't define any value, yes. So that is how this argument works. Suppose if I say this one, if I am not passing anything like this, is it going to take the default value? I'm not passing that argument. Yes. Now let me show for other one also. Now here I am not defining anything. Guys, in Docker file, if I want to comment something, what needs to be used? In my Docker file, I want to comment something. What needs to be used? Hash character. Hash character. So I am commenting this one, which means I am not defining this argument. Now let me show you. I am passing at runtime. I am passing at runtime. But for that one, is it taking? Even though I am not defined in the Docker file, for the other one, is it taking this one? Yes. But whatever has been used in the from instruction, whatever has been used in the from instruction, is it mandatory to pass? I mean, is it mandatory to define that one? Yes. But for this one, which is referring in other instructions, you no need to define also, it is taking. But if I don't pass this one also now, am I going to get error? Am I going to get error now if I don't pass this one also at runtime? Now, let me use this build cache concept 1 second. Ideally, it should not work this one. Let me use no cache, hyphen no cache option. I don't want to use cache. Let's see how it works. Or did I define that anywhere else? I think no. Let's see. How come that is working? It should not arg. I commented this arg file name. I am not passing that one also. Ideally, it should not work. But let me see. Let me go inside that container. How come it is working? Let me see inside. By going inside that container, I am going to interactively create a container. I am going to create the container interactively. That container. Now here ls, that opt folder is there, app folder is there, this text file is there. How come it is copied? This file name, let me delete this image completely. Let me delete that image completely. Ideally, it should not work. It is using some cache concept. Even though I say no cache, let's delete this image completely. Now let me build. Using the Docker file. Maybe I am thinking, since I have given something like this, let's see, since I have given something like this, ap app.txt, so I think with same name I am copying. I think this is the file, even though this is not passed. I think this is the file which is expect using that one. Now let me do something different. Now this one also I will refer like this. This one also I will refer like this. File name. Now let's see how different it works now. Let me remove that image. Let me remove that image completely. Let's see how it works now. From where it is cached? From where it is cached, I have commented this one. I have commented this one, but still, from where it is taking, let's see. I will create that container interactively and see whether that copy has done properly. This image name, this one is the image name. Let me create and start the container interactively. ls/opt app. Okay. Now what is happening? I'll tell you. I got that now. What is happening? Since this is empty, which means dot empty. Is it copying all the files which is part of that one? Now you see, is it copying whatever is part of my build context to that one? Since this is going as empty, I am not passing anything. Is it copying everything whatever I have in my build context? So that is how it is working. So since it is going empty, that is copying everything. Everything. Now I don't want this to happen. So do I need to define? Now let me show you. I am not passing anything here. I am not passing anything here. It is copying like that. Now let me use this option, build arg. That file name argument I am using now. That file name argument I am using. Let's say file name equals to now xyz.txt. xyz.txt I am using like this. So now if you see, what is that argument name? File name, this one. If you see, since I have not defined in the Docker file, it is saying one or more build arguments were not consumed because this has to be defined also. Now let's see what is there in the files. Let me run a container. Let me create a container interactively. Now let's see what is there inside that one. ls/opt/app. Everything is there. So which means this has to be defined. This has to be defined in my Docker file. Now I am defining like this. I am defining like this. If I don't pass anything, is it going to use this file only now? Is it going to copy only that file now? If I don't pass anything, let me build. Without passing anything, I am building. Now let me create a container interactively. Let me create a container interactively. Let me see what is there inside that folder. Now this time, do I have only that file? Do I have only that file? Yes. Now let me do something like this. Build arg, that file name argument. That file name argument. I am passing something like this. xyz.txt. There is a space required. xyz.txt. Now when I create a container interactively, I am going inside that. Now when I see in that folder, do I see xyz.txt now? Which means, can I pass this build arguments to the Docker build? You need to define. Without defining, it is not going to accept. Which means, if you want to use any arguments, do you need to define in the Docker file like this using arg? Then default values. You can pass custom values also at runtime. But once this container is created, will I able to access those arguments? If I do something like this in any other process, am I able to access those arguments? These arguments in the container, whether this one, am I able to access the arguments? Am I able to access within the container? No. But if it is an environment variable, do you see is that environment variable is available within the container also, whatever you have set using env? Is everyone clear? What is env? What is arg? For what purpose we can use argument? If I want to parameterize any Docker build, can I use these arguments? The scope of this argument. What is the difference between env and arg now? You should be able to explain because we discussed in detail and shown in the lab also. What is the difference between env and arg? These are interview questions, guys. Scope, the scope of these arguments. I can access these arguments within a Docker file instruction. These arguments can be accessible only while building the image. Only while building the image. Once the image is created, will I able to refer or access those arguments in the container? No. But when it comes to env, the scope of the env, can I refer environment variables within my Docker file instructions also? While creating an image also you can access. Once the container is created also, will you be able to access those environment variables? Yes. This is how these two works. So sometimes they directly ask the question, what is arg? Sometimes they'll ask, I want to parameterize my Docker build. Suppose I don't want to always use this base image without modifying my Docker file. Is it possible to use different base image? Or I want to parameterize this one, or I want to parameterize something else. Will I able to do that while building the image? Yes, by referring the arguments. By referring the arguments. Okay. Is everyone clear? What is env? What is arg now? So are you going to use all these instructions in all the Docker files, whatever you are going to write? Are you going to use all these Docker file instructions in all the Docker files, whatever you are going to write? No. That is depends on what? What instruction you want to use. That is depends on your requirement. Based on your requirement. Now, let's understand label. What is this label? What is this label, guys, in general, in plain English? What is this label in general? Labels are kind of a metadata. Labels are kind of a metadata. Kind of a metadata. Data about data. Labels are again key value pairs. Again, key value pairs. It's a data about data. So in AWS, we have a tags concept, right? In AWS, we discussed, can I give tags to my AWS resources? Like if I want to give tags to my servers or storage or load balancer, can I use tags concept for identification purpose? For what purpose that is being used, right? So similarly, using this label, labels are key value pairs. It's a data about data. So we can add labels to your image. Identification. Now I can give any label. Suppose I already have some images, whether that's a base image or your own image. Let me inspect this image. Now, can I see the labels? There are any labels added to that image? If you see labels. This image doesn't have any label, I think. Let me check. Container config, cmd is there. Labels, but empty. Labels, but empty. Let me see some other images. Maybe let me pull some image like CentOS image. Let me pull this CentOS image. This is not created by me, but whoever created this image, if they have added some labels to that image in the Docker file, can I see those labels? Can I see those labels if I inspect this image? Yeah. Does this image have some labels? Labels are just identification purpose, key value pairs. Now they have said vendor is CentOS, schema version is this, name is this one, license is this one, build date. They have created this image so and so date. When they have created this image, if you see 2021 in September 15th. 2021 September 15th. So which means, can I add any data about that image using this labels concept? That can be any data, key value pairs. Is it mandatory to use labels again? No. But if you have a requirement, I want to add more data about that image. In the future, I want to know when that image is created, let's say from which branch that image is created. If I want to know all these details, can I add those as a labels to the image while building the image? Let me give one use case. We have this use case also in my project. Long back, we had this requirement. Now let's take this application. Let's take this application. This application have a dev branch. This application has a master branch. This application has a dev branch. This application has a master branch. Now, the image can be created in any branch, whether it's a master branch or dev branch. But I want to know from which branch that image is created. Maybe after 1 month, 2 months, or 10 months also, I want to know from which branch that image is created. Can I add this branch name as a label to the image if required? Now let's consider you have a multi-branch pipeline in Docker. Let's consider you have a multi-branch pipeline in Docker. Now you are building the image. You have a multi-branch pipeline in the Docker. Let's say you are building the image using multi-branch pipeline. Just I am focusing only that area. So you have multi-branch pipeline in the Docker. Sorry, in Jenkins, you have created a multi-branch pipeline. You are building the image using that pipeline. Let's say you clone that code. You executed a Docker build here. You executed Docker build here. Something like this. You are building the image like this. You are building the image. You are authenticating and pushing the image. You are authenticating and pushing the image. Something like this. You are doing Docker login also. Everything is with the sh. You are logging in, Docker login, -u, your username, -p, your password, like this. Now you are building image, you are pushing image, but I want to know from which branch this image is created. You have that requirement. So can I have labels added in my Docker file? Suppose this is my Docker file for that project. This is Docker file for that project, that Node.js project. This is the Docker file. This is the Docker file, let's say. Now, can I use label concept here in my Docker file? Can I use labels? Something like this. Label, branch name, something like this. Suppose if I hard code like this. Suppose if I hard code like this value, whether this pipeline is getting executed from master branch or dev branch, does always this will be same, like the label value will be always same if I hard code like this in my Docker file? Yes. But how can I parameterize this one now? I have a multi-branch pipeline. The image is being built using multi-branch pipeline. Now, how can I parameterize this value also if required? Can I refer this as an argument here? Branch name argument like this. Now, can I define some default value if required? Arg branch name default value, something like this, dev branch, like this, default. Can I make this empty also if required, like this, only empty? Now branch name will be empty if you don't pass anything. If you don't pass anything, it will be empty value. If required, if it is a multi-branch pipeline or normal pipeline also, can I get the branch name in Jenkins, whether it's a declarative or scripted? Can I get the branch name in the Jenkins? That is Jenkins concept. Will I get the branch name? Will I able to get the commit ID also if required? Commit ID also if required. Can I get the branch name also if required in the Jenkins pipeline? From which branch that is being triggered? How to get branch name, guys? Jenkins concept now. How to get the branch name? Do I have an environment variable called branch underscore name? Do I have an environment variable called branch? branch? branch underscore name in Jenkins. So can I pass something like this while building? If I am referring as an argument here in my Docker file, can I pass that as a build argument like this? Hyphen hyphen build hyphen arg. This one, this variable, branch name is my argument. The value for this one in my Jenkins, can I use this like this? That branch name value directly I can pass something like this. Not this one, branch underscore name, capital letters. Can I pass like this? Branch underscore name. So now if this is executed from dev branch, does this will have a dev value, dev branch? I mean to say dev or master like this based on the branch which this is executed. So which means is this image is going to have a label like branch name? If it is develop branch, this will be develop. If it is created using master branch, can I have a label called branch name and branch value as master if this is being built from whatever branch? So can I add some additional data? Can I add some additional data using labels? And can I parameterize those labels also while building the image? The label values also parameterize using this arguments concept. I had this type of requirement. Almost 4 or 5 years back, I had this type of requirements. The requirement says I want to add the labels for my image from which branch that is created. But we are using multi-branch pipeline. If I hard code my value, whether irrespective from which branch image is getting created, will I have a same value if I hard code something? Yes. But instead of hard coding, can I parameterize that one from the pipeline by getting the branch name like this? If you required, if required, can you get get it to one variable like this also in the pipeline? This is Jenkins concept. Can you get into one variable like this in Jenkins? Can I use this one here like this? Can I use this one here like this? Otherwise, if it is environment variable, can I directly use that one here like this? Let me show you. Let me show you. Guys, I am explaining Docker, but if you have a requirement, will you be able to do this from the pipelines also? Because you already know Jenkins. I no need to explain what is what. But if you know the Docker concept, will you be able to apply Docker concepts in your Jenkins concepts together in the pipeline? So that is what actual way of learning, not like bits and pieces. Since I am sharing this pipeline, don't consider always you are going to write same way. But if you have a different requirement, instead of this command, you may use different commands. But at the end of the day, you are using Jenkins, you are using Docker only, but the requirements are different. Based on the requirements, do you write your pipelines, your Docker files? Do you need to leverage the whatever concepts you have learned to achieve that requirement as per the given task? Yes. So that is actual way of learning. Now let me demonstrate here. If required, can I add a label for this image? Whatever labels, n number of labels, let's say label. I'm saying, just to give an example, this one. Just to give an example, something like this. Value, I can pass value anything, something like this, develop branch. But if I hard code like this, let me build that image. Let me build that image. If I hard code like this, when I inspect that image, will I see the same label value? Now can I see that label now? Since I use label, can I see that label like this? Now, if I don't want to hard code, is it possible for me to parameterize that one also by referring as an argument here? Dollar, something like this, branch name. I can define default, or I can just define empty also. If it is empty like this, I am not passing anything. That argument I am not passing anything. It is not throwing any error, but can I see that value as empty because I am not passing anything? The value is empty. Now if I pass like this, hyphen hyphen build hyphen arg, that branch name equals to dev or develop like this. Now can I see this value when I inspect that image wherever it is? Develop. Now instead of develop, if I pass master like this, now can I see that as a label value now? If I inspect, yes. So label is different, argument is different. Label is different, argument is different. But can I leverage these two based on your requirement? Yes. So is everyone clear what is this label? Can I add n number of labels again? I am just demonstrating with only one label. If required, can I add n number of labels again? Yes. Is everyone clear what is label, guys, in Docker file? Okay. Now, the way we have a label, we have one more instruction called work dir. We have one more instruction called work dir. What is this work dir? The name itself it is saying. What is the meaning of this work dir? Working directory. Working directory. Can I set working directory for my image and container using this work dir instruction? If required, can I set this working directory for my image and container? Yes. If you observe, let me show this application. Let me show this application. I created a container out of this image. I created a container out of this image. Container is running, that is created out of that image. When I say this pwd command, sorry, container name I have to use. When I use this pwd command on that container, how come I can see this user local tomcat? Why it is not root directory or some other directory? How come this is this present working directory? When I go inside the container also, I am directly landing in that directory. User local tomcat. If you see, I am in that directory. How come this is happening? That is because of the working directory option. So again, where did I set that working directory? In my Docker file, do you see that working directory? Did I use that instruction? Did I again use that instruction, that work dir instruction here? No. But how come? If I inspect the image also, I think you can see the working directory details. Docker inspect, that image you inspect, you can see the working directory also somewhere. Yes. Can you see this working directory? What is the working directory of that image or container? So how come this is, where did we set? That is part of your base image itself. If you see the base image of your Tomcat, do I have that instruction in the Docker file of that Tomcat base image? Can I see that instruction work dir $Catalina _ home? Which means This Catalina underscore home, is it a one environment variable instead of hard coding? They're referring from this one. So can I see this as a working directory because of this instruction? If required, can I set working directory for any image? Whatever image, whatever Docker image I'm creating, if required, can I set a working directory here also for this, like this, work dir, working directory. I can set any working directory like this. Now, if this is my working directory, all the subsequent instructions like run cmd, will it be executed from this working directory, which means it is like a cd. It is like a cd. You are changing the directory. Does these instructions will run from that working directory, whether it's a cmd instruction or run instruction? Yes. Now here, suppose if I already changed my working directory, if I don't give like this also, that folder name also, I'm not giving. So if I give like this, in which folder in the image it is going to copy that file, I'm just giving a file name. In which folder that image file is going to be copied? To this folder. To this folder. That is your current working directory. That is your current working directory. Now, suppose this directory is not created. This directory is not created using run. Does working directory will create a folder also? If it is not part of that base image or previous layer, is it going to create and switch? Yes. You no need to explicitly create the directory like this. You no need to do this also. This run mkdir. If this is also not done, if this directory is not there in the image, is this working directory will create a directory and switch the directory? Yes. Let me show you. I am commenting this one. I am commenting this one. I am not creating a directory also. I am not creating a directory also. I am commenting this one. Now let me build the image. Let me build the image. Now I have set the working directory. I have set the working directory. I didn't get any error. Let me create a container interactively again because nothing is running here. Let me create a container interactively. I am creating a container. I am going inside the container. Now, do you see? I landed in that OPT app folder in the container. How come? How come? How come I am inside this container, in this folder? Because did we set the working directory for that image and container? Yes. So is everyone clear what is working directory and how it works? I no need to create a working directory like this. If you see in this Docker file also, in this Node.js application, I set working directory. So is this directory will be created and switched to that directory? Yes. Then I am saying copy dot dot. I am saying copy dot dot. First dot is what? First dot is your build context, source. Now this second dot is your current directory in the image. So what is the current directory in the image? So to which folder it is going to copy all the files which is part of your build context? In image, which folder it is going to copy? Is it going to copy to this folder because of this working directory? Yes. Now I already changed the working directory. Is this app.js is part of this working directory? Do I need to give complete path like this? User slash app, wherever my JS file is there. Do I need to give like this? Not required, because you are already changed the working directory. Is this file will be part of, or this file will be expected out of this working directory if I give like this? Does this file to be part of working directory? So is everyone clear how working directory will work? What is the use of working directory? Can I set the working directory of an image or container using this work dir? Yes. Now we have few more commands left. This user, expose and value, that I will continue tomorrow. So tomorrow also we have a class, Saturday, no holiday. So we will have a class tomorrow. Tomorrow I will discuss about these three instructions, and also we will try to Dockerize some applications like Python applications. We will try to create a Docker image for Python based applications, and also we will understand what is multi-stage Docker file, what is multi-stage Docker file. Also we'll understand tomorrow. Tomorrow also we are going to discuss about Docker file. Guys, 4 days we are discussing about Docker file, almost 7 hours, almost 7 to 8 hours we are discussing on Docker file itself. Any requirement you get, that can be any application, you guys should be able to create a Docker image for that application as per the given requirements. Because you know what is what, each instruction you know when to use, why you need to use that one. You should be able to create a Docker image. Tomorrow after the class, I am going to give one assignment on the Docker file. I want you to create some image as per the given requirements. So tomorrow I will give the assignment also once the class is done. Thank you guys. That's it for today. I'll continue tomorrow on the Docker file again. Same time, 7:40. I'll start the class tomorrow. So we have a class tomorrow at 7:40 a.m. IST. Thank you guys. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.